I'm 34 years old, and I need to tell you what happened in the High Sierra in August 2012. How my 3 college friends and I ignored warnings about an unmapped section of wilderness. How we discovered that Bigfoot aren't just real, they're intelligent, territorial, and protecting something we never should have seen. My name is Alex Mercer. In 2012, I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, convinced I was invincible. My 3 best friends, Sarah Chen, Ben Rodriguez, and Mike Patterson, we'd been planning an epic wilderness trip, something off the beaten path, something that would be our last adventure together before real life started. We met an old climber named Jack Thornton at a gear shop in Fresno. He was buying supplies, mentioned he'd just come from the High Sierra. We asked him about good backpacking routes. "Depends what you're looking for," he said. "Tourist trails or real wilderness?" "Real wilderness," I said immediately. "The more remote, the better." He studied us for a long moment, then pulled out a topographic map, pointed to an area that showed no trails, no landmarks, just contour lines indicating brutal terrain. "Granite Basin," he said. "Maybe 20 square miles of unmapped wilderness. No official trails, no ranger stations, no cell service. You'd be completely alone." "Perfect," Ben said. "That's exactly what we want." Jack's expression darkened. "There's a reason it's unmapped. Locals won't go there. Forest Service discourages access. Every few years, someone gets hurt or goes missing in that area." "We can handle it," I said with the confidence of someone who'd never been truly tested. Jack wrote coordinates on the back of a receipt. "Your funeral. But I'm warning you, that's Sasquatch country. Been sightings in that basin going back 50 years. People see things, hear things. Most come back scared shitless. Some don't come back at all." We laughed. Actual laughter. Thought he was playing into wilderness mythology to make himself sound more experienced. "Thanks for the warning," Sarah said, trying to be polite. "We'll watch out for Bigfoot." Jack didn't smile. "You do that, and if you see tracks, if you hear wood knocks, if the forest goes dead silent, turn around immediately. Don't investigate. Don't try to document it. Just leave. Those things protect their territory, and they don't mess around." We thanked him, took the coordinates, and spent the next week planning our route. Never once took his warning seriously. We should have. Before we begin, comment below and let me know where you're watching this from today. And if you've ever ignored a warning you should have heeded, you'll understand what comes next. Now let me tell you about August 2012 and the 5 days that changed everything I thought I knew about what lives in our wilderness. The plan was simple. 5 days in complete wilderness. No trails, no other hikers, just us and the mountains. One last adventure before Sarah started her PhD program in biology, before Ben deployed with the Marines, before Mike and I started corporate jobs in San Francisco. We were terrified of becoming boring, of losing the edge that made us interesting. This trip was our way of proving we were still adventurous, still willing to take risks, still the people we'd been in college. Looking back, it was pure ego. We weren't experienced wilderness backpackers. We'd done plenty of established trails, camped in designated sites, followed marked routes. But true backcountry navigation, we were amateurs pretending to be experts. Sarah was the most experienced, had actually studied wilderness biology, knew how to read terrain and animal behavior. Ben was the strongest physically, former college wrestler, could carry weight all day without complaining. Mike was our navigator, engineering major, obsessed with GPS and maps. And me? I was the organizer, the one who'd pushed for this trip, convinced everyone it would be epic, assured them we were ready. I was wrong about that last part. We started from a defunct logging road, 40 miles from the nearest town, parked Ben's truck at the trailhead, if you could call it that. Just a wide spot where the deteriorating road ended and wilderness began. The first day was exhilarating. We bushwhacked through dense forest, following our GPS coordinates toward Granite Basin. The terrain was brutal, steep climbs, loose scree, sections where we had to use hands and feet to scramble up granite faces. But the isolation was intoxicating. We saw no one, heard no planes overhead. The only sounds were our breathing, our packs rustling, the crunch of our boots on stone. "This is what real wilderness feels like," I said that first evening, setting up camp beside a pristine alpine lake. No trail markers, no other hikers, just us and the mountains. Sarah was studying the landscape with her binoculars. "It's beautiful, but also kind of eerie. I haven't seen any large mammals. No deer, no bears, nothing." "Good," Mike said. "Means we don't have to worry about bears getting into our food." "That's not good," Sarah said slowly. "Large mammals should be here. This is perfect habitat. The fact that they're not means something's keeping them away." "Like what?" Ben asked. Sarah lowered her binoculars. "A predator. Something big enough that other animals avoid this area entirely." We joked about Bigfoot, made Sasquatch calls, laughed about Jack's warning, but I noticed Sarah wasn't laughing. She was still scanning the tree line, looking for something she clearly expected to find. Day 2 brought a shift in atmosphere. The forest that had seemed beautifully isolated the day before now felt oppressively empty. Sarah's observation about the lack of wildlife became impossible to ignore. No birdsong, no squirrels chattering, no insects buzzing at dusk. Nothing. "This is a predator effect," Sarah said as we filtered water from a stream. "When prey animals sense an apex predator nearby, they hide, go silent, wait for the danger to pass." "What kind of predator?" Mike asked. "I don't know. Mountain lions create this effect, but not over such a large area. Bears don't. Wolves might, but there aren't wolves in this part of the Sierra." We were 2 days deep into unmapped wilderness. No cell service, no trails leading out. Just GPS coordinates and the rough terrain we'd already covered. That's when the fear started creeping in. Not panic, just a low-grade unease that made us check over our shoulders more frequently, made us talk quieter, made us notice how vulnerable we were. We'd wanted isolation. We'd gotten it. But now that isolation felt threatening rather than liberating. That afternoon, as we approached what our map indicated was the heart of Granite Basin, the silence became absolute. Even the wind seemed muted. The forest was holding its breath, and we were about to discover why. We reached the alpine lake around 3 p.m. Perfect camping spot. Clear water, flat ground, surrounded by granite peaks that glowed in the afternoon sun. The kind of place that would be crowded if it had trail access, but there were no trails here. No signs anyone had ever camped at this lake. Just pristine wilderness that looked exactly as it had for thousands of years. "This is incredible," Mike said, dropping his pack. "We might be the first people to ever camp here." Sarah was walking the shoreline, examining the ground. She stopped suddenly, went very still. "Alex," she called out. Her voice had changed. Not excited anymore. Something else. "Come here now." I walked over to where Sarah was crouching. She pointed at the mud near the water's edge. A footprint. Massive, humanoid but wrong. Too big, too wide, toes that were clearly articulated but shaped differently than human toes. "That's—" I couldn't finish the sentence. 17 inches long, Sarah said, pulling out a ruler from her pack. Maybe 8 inches wide, 5 distinct toes, mid-tarsal break visible in the arch. Could it be a bear print? Ben had joined us, staring at the impression. "Bears have claws, this has toes, human-like toes." Sarah stood up, scanning the area. "And look at the stride." She pointed to a second print 15 feet away, then a third. The creature that made these tracks had been walking upright with a stride length that was impossible for humans. "How fresh?" I asked, already knowing I didn't want the answer. Sarah touched the edge of the print. Water was still seeping into the depression from the surrounding mud. "Minutes. This was made within the last few minutes." We all looked toward the tree line simultaneously. The forest was dense with pine and fir. Anything could be watching from those shadows. "Jack wasn't joking," Mike whispered. "There's actually something here." We photographed the prints from multiple angles, measured them, documented everything with the obsessive detail of people who knew no one would believe us, without evidence. The prints showed remarkable detail, individual toe pads, dermal ridges, fingerprint-like patterns on the footsole, a pressure pattern that indicated bipedal walking, with a gait nothing like human locomotion. Sarah pulled out her wildlife biology textbook. Yes, she'd actually brought a textbook backpacking. Flipped to a section on primate foot anatomy. "This matches descriptions from Patterson-Gimlin film analysis," she said. "The mid-tarsal break especially. Humans don't have that. Our feet are rigid. Great apes have it. And apparently, so does whatever made this print." "Sasquatch," Ben said, not joking anymore, stating a fact. "Bigfoot," I corrected automatically, then realized how absurd it was to debate terminology for a creature that supposedly didn't exist. "We should leave," Sarah said firmly. "Right now. Pack up and get out of this basin." "We just got here," Mike protested. "It's probably long gone. We haven't seen anything threatening." "Yet," Sarah said. "We haven't seen anything threatening yet. But this print is fresh, which means something massive was watching us while we were setting up camp. And we never saw it, never heard it. That level of stealth in something this large, that's apex predator behavior. We had a choice. Take Sarah's advice and leave immediately, hiking until dark to put distance between us and whatever made those prints. Or stay, document more, try to get evidence of something that would be scientifically significant, if real. I'm ashamed to admit which choice I pushed for. "We have to stay," I said. "This is incredible. If we can document more evidence, photograph the creature itself, this could be the most significant wildlife discovery in decades. Or we could get killed," Sarah shot back. "These creatures, if they're real, if this is actually a Bigfoot clan territory, they've stayed hidden for good reason. They might not appreciate us documenting their existence." "One more night," I said. "We'll camp here. Keep watch. Document anything else we find. If we don't get more evidence by tomorrow, we leave. Deal?" Sarah looked at Ben and Mike. They were both nodding, excited by the possibility of witnessing something impossible. "This is a mistake," Sarah said. "But I'm outvoted. Fine. One night. But we set watches. No one sleeps without someone keeping guard. We set up camp properly. Bear canisters secured, tents positioned with clear views of the surroundings, established a watch rotation. And we waited to see if the creature that made those prints would return. Night fell. The temperature dropped into the low 40s. We built a small fire. Sarah argued against it, said it would make us visible. But the rest of us wanted the psychological comfort of light. Mike took first watch, Ben second. I was scheduled for the 2 to 4 a.m. shift. At 1:30 a.m., Mike shook me awake. His hand was over my mouth, signaling silence. I sat up slowly. Mike pointed toward our bear canisters, the supposedly impenetrable containers designed to withstand bears trying to access food. They'd been moved, all 4 of them, stacked in a perfect pyramid, maybe 20 feet from where we'd left them. And they were open, not damaged or broken. Opened properly, like someone had understood the locking mechanism and deliberately unlocked each one. "What the fuck?" I whispered. Sarah was awake too, had heard us moving. She examined the canisters with her headlamp. "These locks require manual dexterity, opposable thumbs, fine motor control. A bear couldn't do this." "A person," Ben suggested, now awake. "There are no people out here," Sarah said. "We're days from any trail. And why would a person unlock our food containers and stack them artistically instead of stealing the food?" "A message," I said, understanding finally clicking. "This is a message. Whatever opened these wants us to know it can manipulate our equipment. Wants us to understand we're not safe even with gear designed to protect against wildlife." Sarah was scanning the tree line with her headlamp. "It's still watching, right now. And it's smart enough to wait until we were mostly asleep. Patient enough to approach silently. Dexterous enough to open complex locks." "We're leaving," Mike said, no debate in his voice. "Right now. We pack up and we hike out." "It's 1:30 a.m., Ben said. "We can't navigate this terrain in the dark. We get injured or lost." "Then we stay awake until dawn," Sarah said. "All of us, maximum alertness. And the second there's enough light to see, we're moving." None of us slept the rest of that night. We sat around the fire, backs together, watching the darkness, listening to the forest. And around 3 a.m. we heard it, a sound that made my blood freeze. Wood knocks, deliberate, rhythmic, coming from multiple directions. They were communicating, multiple creatures, surrounding our camp, and we were trapped until sunrise. If you're watching this and you've ever been somewhere you absolutely shouldn't be, somewhere you ignored every warning to reach, stay with this story. My friends thought I was paranoid sharing this publicly, but if you're still here, you're proving them wrong. Hit subscribe. Help me show that some warnings exist for good reasons, that some territories aren't ours to explore. Now back to that alpine lake, August 2012. Dawn arrived like a reprieve. The wood knocks had continued sporadically until about 5 a.m., then stopped. The silence that followed was almost worse. We didn't know if the creatures had left or were simply waiting quietly. At first light, we packed with frantic efficiency. No breakfast, no filtering water, just stuffing gear into packs and preparing to move. Sarah was studying her map. "We need to head northeast. That should take us out of the basin and back toward the logging road." "How long?" Mike asked. "If we push hard, maybe 6 hours to reach terrain we recognize, then another 4 to the truck." "Let's move," I said. We started hiking, fast, pushing harder than was safe on the rocky terrain. Every sound made us jump. Every shadow looked like a 7-foot creature. After 2 hours, Ben called for a water break. We stopped at a small creek. That's when the rocks started. Small stones, thrown from the tree line with remarkable precision. They didn't hit us, that was the terrifying part. They landed right at our feet, exactly at our feet, over and over. "They're herding us," Sarah said, watching the pattern. "Look, rocks from the north pushing us south. Rocks from the west pushing us east. They're directing our movement." "Why?" Mike asked. "Because we're going the wrong direction. We're heading towards something they don't want us to see." Another rock. This one landed between Ben's boots. He jumped back instinctively, which put him on a slightly different trail, angling more southeast than our intended northeast route. "They're incredibly intelligent," Sarah said, with a mixture of awe and terror. "They're using non-violent methods to control our movement, like herding dogs with sheep, applying just enough pressure to change our direction without actually attacking." "Should we follow where they're pushing us?" I asked. "Do we have a choice? If we keep going northeast, what's to stop them from escalating, moving from rocks to physical confrontation?" We adjusted our route, started following the direction the rock throwing seemed to be encouraging. The moment we complied, the rocks stopped. "Positive reinforcement," Sarah said. They're literally training us like animals, and it's working. We hiked for another hour in the approved direction. The terrain became more difficult, steeper, rockier, less obvious paths. We were being pushed away from easy routes and toward harder terrain. Why would they make it harder for us to leave? Ben asked. Because they're not just pushing us away from something, Sarah said. They're pushing us around something, forcing us to take a longer, more difficult route that avoids a specific area. What area? I asked. Sarah pulled out her map, studied our position, traced the route we'd been forced to take. There's a box canyon about half a mile north of our current position. If we'd gone northeast like I planned, we would have passed right through it. So, there's something in that canyon they don't want us to see, Mike said. Obviously. We looked at each other. The smart decision was clear. Follow the path we were being herded along, get out of the basin, never come back. But we were 22 years old, and curiosity is stronger than survival instinct at that age. We should check it out, I said. Are you insane? Sarah demanded. They're literally using psychological warfare to keep us away from that canyon. That means there's something there worth protecting, something dangerous, or something incredible, I countered. We're already here, already in their territory. We might never get another chance to see what they're protecting. The vote was 3-1. Sarah was outvoted again. We changed course, headed toward the box canyon. The approach to the canyon was blocked by dense brush. Deliberately dense, we realized. Branches woven together, living plants guided into patterns that created a natural barrier. This is intentional landscaping, Sarah said, examining the brush. These plants were manipulated years ago, trained to grow in specific patterns. This is a constructed barrier. We found a gap, squeezed through, entered the box canyon, and found proof that changed everything. The canyon was maybe 100 yards across, enclosed on 3 sides by granite walls. At the far end, structures. Stick structures woven with remarkable skill. Lean-tos made from branches. Beds lined with pine boughs arranged in circular patterns. This is a habitation site, Sarah whispered. An actual living area, not temporary. Look at how weathered some of these structures are. This has been used for years, maybe decades. We moved closer, found more details that proved intelligence, culture, family structure. Crude toys, arrangements of river stones that looked like games, twisted roots carved into shapes, animals, maybe representations of the creatures themselves. And then we found the backpacks, 3 of them. Different brands, different conditions. Old, the fabric was weathered, faded by years of sun exposure, ripped open, contents scattered. Oh my God, Mike said, examining one. There's a name, Jenny Martinez, 2008. We found ID cards in 2 of the packs. Different people, different years, 2006, 2008, 2011. Where are they? Ben asked. The people these belong to. No one answered, because the implications were too terrible to state aloud. Sarah was examining the structures more closely. This is a nursery. Look, smaller beds, toys, this is where they raise their young. And then we heard it. A sound that made every hair on my body stand up. Vocalizations, not roars. More like chatter, coming from multiple sources, surrounding the canyon. We'd found their nursery and they'd found us. We ran. No discussion. Just pure panic flight back toward the gap in the brush. But they cut us off. Not violently. No one grabbed us or attacked us. They just appeared. Blocked the exit. 5 of them. Maybe 6. Large dark shapes among the trees. Too fast for their size. Too coordinated to be random. We were trapped in the box canyon, surrounded by a Bigfoot clan protecting their young. Sarah's voice was shaking. Don't run. Don't make aggressive movements. We're in their nursery. They're defending their children. The worst thing we can do is act like a threat. We stood, frozen. The creatures were close enough now that we could see details. 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in dark brown hair, faces that were both ape-like and disturbingly human, eyes that showed unmistakable intelligence, and they were furious, making sounds, not roars, but something worse, angry vocalizations that communicated rage without language. Back up, Sarah said quietly. Slowly. Move toward the center of the canyon. Show we're not trying to access their structures. We complied, backed away from the habitation site, huddled together in the open area. The creatures watched. Didn't advance, just watched, making those angry sounds. They're deciding what to do with us, Sarah whispered. Right now, they're deciding if we're a threat that needs to be eliminated or just stupid humans who made a mistake. How do we convince them we're the second thing? I asked. We can't. We just have to hope they're intelligent enough to recognize we're terrified and too pathetic to be dangerous. We stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably 15 minutes. The creatures watching us trying not to move, no one knowing what would happen next. Then one of them, the largest, probably male, made a different sound. Lower, authoritative. The others responded, started backing away, disappearing into the forest, but the large male stayed, stood at the gap in the brush blocking our exit, making it clear, "You're leaving, but on my terms. When I decide it's safe." We'd trespassed in a Bigfoot nursery, found evidence of their family structure, discovered they were protecting young, and somehow, impossibly, they were letting us live. The large male stood guard for another 30 minutes. We didn't move, barely breathed, just waited for him to decide our fate. Finally, he made a gesture, deliberate, pointed toward the gap in the brush, then swept his arm in a clear direction. "That way. Leave that way." "He's telling us which direction to go," Sarah said, voice barely audible. "He's giving us a route out." "You're saying he understands pointing, understands giving directions?" Mike asked. "I'm saying he's doing exactly that, right now, and we should listen." The male made the gesture again, more emphatic. His patience was wearing thin. We moved toward the gap, slowly, hands visible, making ourselves as non-threatening as possible. As we passed within 10 feet of him, we got our first close look. He was massive, easily 8 feet tall, shoulders broader than any human, covered in dark brown hair that was graying at the face and chest. Old, scarred, battle-tested, but his eyes, God, his eyes were almost human, brown, intelligent, watching us with an awareness that was undeniable. We squeezed through the gap, started hiking in the direction he'd indicated. Behind us, we heard him follow, not chasing, escorting, making sure we actually left, making sure we didn't try to circle back to the nursery. We hiked for 3 hours. The male stayed behind us the entire time, never closer than 50 feet, never farther than 100. Always watching. Occasionally, other sounds would emerge from the forest, other creatures. The male would make vocalizations in response, clearly communicating with the rest of his clan, updating them on our progress, confirming we were leaving. "This is organized territorial defense," Sarah said as we hiked. "They have scouts, communication systems, coordinated movements. This isn't animal behavior. This is military-level tactical awareness." Around midday, we reached a ridge. Below us, terrain we recognized. The route back toward the logging road. The male appeared beside a large pine tree, made another gesture. "Continue that way." Then he did something unexpected. He pointed to his eyes with 2 fingers, then pointed at us, then made a sweeping gesture that encompassed the entire basin behind us. "He's saying, 'I see you,'" Sarah interpreted. "Or maybe we're watching you. A final warning, don't come back." Ben, despite everything, raised his hand. A small wave, acknowledging the communication. The male tilted his head, studying Ben. Then, I swear this happened, he raised his own hand. Not quite a wave, more like acknowledgement. "I see you too." Then he turned and disappeared into the forest with shocking silence for something so large. We were alone again. The oppressive presence that had been following us was gone. "Did that just happen?" Mike asked. "Did a Bigfoot just wave goodbye to us?" He acknowledged Ben's gesture, Sarah said. Reciprocal communication. He understood Ben was trying to communicate respect or farewell, and he responded appropriately. We hiked down the ridge, made it maybe a quarter mile before we found something that made us stop. Arranged on a flat rock, pine cones, 4 of them, placed deliberately in a line. "Is that—" I couldn't finish. "A message," Sarah said. "Maybe, or maybe just coincidence." But as we continued hiking, we found more. More pine cones, more arranged stones, deliberately placed, creating a trail, guiding us toward the easiest route out of the basin. "They're helping us leave," Sarah said, wonder in her voice. "After everything, after we trespassed, found their nursery, violated their territory, they're making sure we get out safely." "Why?" Mike asked. "Because we didn't attack them. Didn't try to hurt their young, didn't escalate. We just left when told to leave. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that earns minimal respect." The trail of markers continued for miles. Every time we reached a junction or difficult terrain, there would be a sign. Stones arranged in arrows, broken branches pointing directions, subtle but clear. They were guiding us home. After terrorizing us, after making us understand we were trespassing, they were ensuring we'd survive the journey out. As the sun started setting, we faced a problem. We couldn't make it to the truck before dark. We'd have to camp one more night. "Not here," Sarah said, examining our position. "We need to get further from the basin. Show we're actually leaving, not just repositioning." We pushed for another hour until we found a clear area with good visibility, set up camp with maximum caution. That night we heard them again. Wood knocks, but different this time, not surrounding us, more like calling from ridge to ridge, communicating with each other about our position, tracking us but not threatening. "They're making sure we keep moving in the right direction," Sarah said. "This is still escorted removal from their territory. We're not guests. Were threats being managed? Around 9 p.m., the wood knocks stopped. The forest went silent. Then we heard something new. Vocalizations. Complex patterns of sound. Not quite language, but not random either. Organized, meaningful. They're talking about us, Sarah said. Describing us to others, maybe. Sharing information about the humans who found the nursery. Can you understand any of it? Ben asked. No, but the structure. There's clear turn-taking. One individual makes a series of sounds, another responds. That's conversation. That's language, even if we can't parse the semantics. We sat around our fire, listening to creatures that supposedly didn't exist having conversations we couldn't understand about us. Around midnight, something changed. The vocalizations shifted, became more urgent, more distressed. Sarah sat up. Something's wrong. With them? I asked. I don't know, but that doesn't sound like casual communication anymore. That sounds like alarm. The sounds were coming from the direction we'd come from. The basin, getting louder, more frantic. Then we heard other sounds, human sounds, engines, helicopters. Someone's in the basin, Mike said. Someone just went into their territory. The Bigfoot vocalizations intensified. Wood knocks resumed, rapid, angry. Then what sounded like roaring, battle sounds. They're defending the nursery, Sarah said. Someone just made the same mistake we did, but at night, with helicopters. This is going to be violent. We couldn't see anything, just heard the chaos. Helicopter sounds, Bigfoot vocalizations. What might have been gunfire, hard to tell from this distance. It lasted maybe 20 minutes, then silence. What the hell just happened? Ben asked. Sarah was quiet for a long time. I think we just heard the government responding to our presence in the basin. Someone was monitoring the area, saw our GPS signals or something, sent a team to investigate what we found. And the Bigfoot, I asked, defended their territory against armed humans. God, I hope there are survivors on both sides. We sat there in horrified silence, understanding that our curiosity had triggered something we couldn't control. Our presence in the basin had alerted someone, and now people, and possibly Bigfoot, were paying the price. We broke camp at first light, hiked fast, all of us desperate to reach the truck, get out of the wilderness, get somewhere safe. The forest was eerily quiet again. No wood knocks, no vocalizations, no markers guiding us. Whatever had happened during the night, it had ended the Bigfoot clan's willingness to help us. We reached the logging road around 10 a.m., saw Ben's truck exactly where we'd left it, but we also saw 3 black SUVs parked nearby and a white van marked National Forest Geological Survey. That's not a real Forest Service vehicle, Sarah said immediately. Geological Survey doesn't operate vans, and Forest Service vehicles are green, not white. Should we run? Mike asked. Run where? I said. We're exhausted. They've obviously been waiting for us, and we've done nothing illegal, technically. We approached the trucks cautiously. A man stepped out of the lead SUV, mid-40s, fit, wearing what looked like ranger gear, but something was off about it. You folks must be the Berkeley backpacking group, he said. No warmth in his voice, statement, not question. I'm Ranger Graves. We've been waiting for you. How did you know we were here? Sarah asked. GPS coordinates from one of your emergency beacons, he said smoothly. Too smoothly. When you didn't check in as scheduled, we got concerned. We didn't have emergency beacons, I said, and we didn't file a trip plan with any agency. Graves's expression didn't change. Must have been miscommunication on our end. Regardless, we need to debrief you about your experience in the basin. Graves led us to the white van. Inside, recording equipment, cameras, medical supplies, and other people. 2 men in tactical gear who weren't even pretending to be forest rangers. Before we begin, Graves said, I need your phones, all electronic devices, cameras, GPS units, everything. Why? Ben asked. Standard procedure for wilderness rescue situations. We need to document your experience. Make sure you haven't contracted any environmental pathogens. Check your equipment for safety violations. That's not standard procedure for anything, Sarah said. And you're not Forest Service. I know Forest Service protocols. This isn't it. Graves's friendly demeanor evaporated. Miss Chen, I'm going to be direct. You entered an area that's restricted for scientific research. You may have been exposed to environmental hazards. You certainly photographed things you weren't authorized to photograph. We need those devices. Now. And if we refuse? I asked. Then we detain you for violating federal wilderness protection statutes, hold you for 72 hours while we investigate, and seize your equipment anyway through legal process. Or you cooperate, answer some questions, and you're free to go within the hour. We looked at each other. 4 exhausted college students against armed men with obvious government backing. We handed over our phones. Graves interviewed us separately. I went first. Tell me what you saw in Granite Basin. Wildlife. Beautiful scenery, challenging terrain. What kind of wildlife? Deer, some birds, normal stuff. You're lying. Your GPS tracks show you spent significant time in a box canyon. Then you made a rapid exit from the basin. What did you find in that canyon? Nothing, just realized we were off route. Corrected our navigation. Graves pulled out a tablet, showed me photos. My heart sank. They were our photos, from our phones, uploaded to cloud storage before we lost cell service on day 1. Bigfoot footprints, the habitation site, the backpacks, everything. One more time, Alex, what did you see in the basin? I knew I was beaten. Structures, primitive structures, and prints, large prints. We thought maybe bears. You thought maybe bears made 17-inch humanoid footprints with toe articulation and mid-tarsal breaks. I don't know what made them. Graves leaned forward. Let me tell you what you found. You found a habitation site belonging to an unclassified primate species that the federal government has been monitoring for 60 years. You photographed it, you documented it, and now we need to make sure you understand why that information can never be made public. Graves pulled out documents, dense legal language, non-disclosure agreements. You're going to sign these. They state that you encountered aggressive bear activity in Granite Basin, that you were threatened by a mother bear protecting cubs, that you exited the area as recommended by Forest Service protocol. No mention of anything else you saw. And if we don't sign? Sarah had joined the interrogation now. Then we charge you with violating the Endangered Species Act, photography of a protected species in a restricted habitat, federal crime, fines up to $250,000, possible imprisonment. Plus, we confiscate all your equipment and documentation as evidence. You sign, this goes away. You stay silent, you walk away. You talk, you face federal prosecution. Sarah was reading the NDA carefully. This references Section 14B of the Wilderness Protection Act. There is no Section 14B. This is a fake legal document referencing non-existent statutes. Graves smiled, not friendly. Ms. Chen, you're a biology student. I'm sure you understand the concept of plausible deniability. Whether these documents would hold up in court is irrelevant. What matters is whether you want to spend the next 5 years fighting federal charges while your academic career evaporates and your family goes bankrupt paying legal fees, or whether you'd rather sign a piece of paper and forget this ever happened. We were trapped, completely, and we all knew it. We signed, all 4 of us. What choice did we have? As Graves collected the documents, he said something that's haunted me for 12 years. The species you encountered, and I'm not confirming they exist, just speaking hypothetically, has survived precisely because of agreements like these. Because people who encounter them understand that public revelation would mean destruction. Researchers, trophy hunters, reality TV shows, habitat loss. The only reason they still exist is because they remain unknown. Your silence isn't a cover-up, it's conservation. Sarah looked at him. So you're admitting they exist. I'm saying that some things are better protected through secrecy than through scientific recognition, and that the smartest thing those creatures could do is stay hidden, just like the smartest thing you can do is stay silent. Graves walked to the van door, paused. One more thing. Last night, a tactical research team entered Granite Basin. There was an encounter. 3 men were injured, non-life-threatening but severe. The creatures defending their territory demonstrated remarkable restraint. Could have killed, chose not to. They're intelligent enough to understand escalation, smart enough to use minimal force. Are they okay? I asked. The Bigfoot family. Graves actually smiled. Real smile this time. They're fine. Relocated to deeper wilderness. Somewhere without curious college students stumbling into nurseries. Somewhere they can raise their young without human interference. So you are protecting them, Sarah said. I'm protecting a classified research project. Whether that project involves monitoring an unknown primate species or studying geological formations or tracking migration patterns of conventional wildlife, that's classified. But hypothetically, if such a species existed, wouldn't it be worth protecting? Wouldn't their right to exist outweigh public curiosity? He was asking us to understand, to agree that silence was the right choice, and God help me, I did agree. Still do. I'm sharing this now because Ranger Graves retired last year. The NDA I signed referenced a program that was quietly dissolved in 2020. The legal threats are gone, but the moral obligation remains. Subscribe if you believe some beings deserve protection more than discovery, that some secrets keep the vulnerable safe. Now let me tell you what we've learned in the 12 years since. The Bigfoot clan we encountered had no tools, no obvious technology, no written language, but they had coordinated defense strategies, communication systems sophisticated enough to direct complex operations, psychological warfare tactics that were remarkably effective, understanding of human technology, evidenced by their ability to manipulate bear canisters, teaching behavior, guiding us away from the nursery then out of the basin, Restraint. They could have killed us easily but chose not to. Every assumption I'd ever made about intelligence requiring advancement, requiring civilization, technology, written language was wrong. The Bigfoot demonstrated intelligence through behavior, not artifacts, through tactics, not tools, through choices that prioritized their young's safety over eliminating threats. That's sophisticated intelligence, possibly more sophisticated than human intelligence because it doesn't require external validation or physical proof. For years after, I struggled with shame about how terrified we were, how we panicked, how we probably looked pathetic to those creatures. But Sarah helped me reframe it. Fear was appropriate. We were in genuine danger. They could have killed us. The fact that we survived doesn't mean the fear was irrational. It means we were lucky they chose restraint. Fear isn't weakness. Fear is accurate threat assessment. We were four soft humans in the territory of apex beings who'd stayed hidden for centuries. We had no defenses, no real wilderness skills, no understanding of what we were dealing with. Being afraid was the smartest thing we could have been, and showing that fear, showing we were non-threatening, might have been what saved our lives. If we'd tried to act tough, tried to stand our ground, the outcome could have been very different. American culture teaches that wilderness is ours to explore, that public lands mean unrestricted access, that humans have the right to go anywhere we want. Granite Basin taught me that's wrong. Some places belong to other beings. Some territories are rightfully theirs, not ours, and claiming the right to explore everywhere is colonial thinking applied to wildlife. The Bigfoot clan wasn't encroaching on human territory. We were encroaching on theirs. They'd been there first, had established their nursery long before we decided their home would make a good backpacking destination. Respecting territorial boundaries isn't just about safety. It's about acknowledging that we're not the only intelligent species with legitimate claims to space. I wanted those photos, wanted the evidence, wanted to prove we'd seen something incredible. But Graves was right about one thing. Public revelation would have destroyed that family. Imagine if we'd posted those photos online, if they'd gone viral, if researchers, enthusiasts, hunters, filmmakers, and tourists descended on Granite Basin looking for Bigfoot. The nursery would have been destroyed, the family displaced or killed, the offspring traumatized or worse. Our evidence would have been their death sentence. Sometimes documentation is extraction, sometimes photographing something rare is harming it. Sometimes the most ethical choice is to witness without recording, experience without proving, know without sharing. I'm telling this story 12 years later, after the legal threats expired, after Graves confirmed the family was relocated safely. But I'm not giving locations, not sharing photos, not providing enough detail for anyone to find them, because they deserve to exist without being hunted for proof. The speed of that response, the fact that Graves was waiting for us, the sophisticated NDAs, the casual mention of 60 years of monitoring. This wasn't the first time federal agencies dealt with Bigfoot encounters. This was routine, practiced. They had protocols for this, which means the government knows Bigfoot exist. They've been protecting, monitoring them for decades. They have infrastructure for covering up encounters. They've made the calculated decision that secrecy protects both species better than public acknowledgement. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I know what I experienced, and I know Graves wasn't improvising. He was executing a well-established protocol. How many other people have signed those NDAs? How many encounters have been quietly suppressed? How many families of Bigfoot are being monitored without public knowledge? The implications are staggering. The question I've wrestled with for 12 years. Was I wrong to sign that NDA? To stay silent? To prioritize the Bigfoot family's safety over scientific discovery? And I've reached a conclusion. No, I made the right choice. Because scientific discovery doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a world where rare things get exploited, where vulnerable beings get turned into spectacles, where protection becomes impossible once existence becomes public. The Bigfoot family deserved privacy, deserved to raise their young without human interference, deserved to exist on their own terms in their own territory. My silence protected that. Our silence, all four of us kept it, gave them the gift of continued anonymity. Some secrets aren't cover-ups. They're shields protecting the vulnerable from the powerful. And keeping those secrets even when it costs you something is the right thing to do. It's been 12 years. I'm 34 now. Sarah just finished her PhD in wildlife biology. Ben left the Marines after 2 tours, works as a wilderness guide. Mike is an engineer in Seattle. We stay in touch. Not frequently, but meaningfully. And we never talk about Granite Basin. Not directly, but it's always there. The shared experience that changed how we see the world. Last year, Sarah called me. I just defended my dissertation, research on primate social structures and territorial behavior, used chimpanzees as my model species. But Alex, Everything I learned, everything I observed in the field, it doesn't compare to what we saw in 5 days in the High Sierra. Why didn't you write about that? I asked. Because I signed an NDA. Because documenting it would harm them. Because some knowledge stays private, but it shaped everything. Every question I asked in my research was informed by those 5 days. Every conclusion I drew was tested against what I witnessed with the Bigfoot clan. So your entire academic career is built on an experience you can never officially acknowledge. Yes, and I'm okay with that, because the work matters, even if I can't explain where my insights came from. Mike had a similar story. His engineering work focuses on biomechanics, studying how large bipedal creatures could move efficiently through difficult terrain. Officially, I'm designing prosthetics. Unofficially, I'm trying to understand how something 8 feet tall can move silently through a forest. Every model I build, I'm thinking about them. We'd all been shaped by those 5 days, all carried forward lessons we couldn't explicitly reference, all built careers influenced by experiences we couldn't prove. 2 months ago, Graves contacted me. First communication in 12 years. The program is being shut down, he said over an encrypted call. Budget cuts, changing priorities. The monitoring stations in the High Sierra are being decommissioned. What does that mean for them? I asked. The Bigfoot families. Means they're on their own, no more protection, no more strategic relocation when human encroachment gets too close. Just wild things trying to survive in shrinking habitat. Can't you prevent that? I'm retiring, Alex. The people replacing me don't share my conservation priorities. They think monitoring cryptid species is a waste of resources, think the budget would be better spent on conventional endangered species. So, what happens to the families, the nurseries? Graves was quiet for a long moment. They adapt or they die. Same as any species facing habitat loss and increased human pressure. I did what I could for 40 years. Now it's someone else's problem. Or no one's problem, I said. Yeah, or that. He hung up. And I realized the protection those families relied on for decades was ending. They were more vulnerable now than they'd been in generations. Last month, the 4 of us met in person for the first time in years. Hiked together in the Cascades. Nothing extreme, just a weekend trip, but we needed to talk. Really talk. We're the only people who know what we know, Sarah said around the campfire. The only civilians who've documented a Bigfoot nursery and lived to talk about it. And we can't talk about it. Should we? Ben asked. Now that the program's ending, now that Graves is retired, should we go public? And say what? Mike countered. That we saw Bigfoot 12 years ago, signed NDAs that may or may not be legally enforceable, and have no remaining proof because all our photos were confiscated. We have our testimony, I said. 4 credible witnesses. Sarah has a PhD in biology. Ben has military training. Mike is an engineer. We're not cranks. We're also not enough, Sarah said. Without physical evidence, without photos, we're just 4 people telling a story, and telling that story might put the remaining families at risk. We sat with that. The weight of knowledge we couldn't safely share. The responsibility of protecting beings we'd encountered briefly, but never forgotten. I think we tell the story, I finally said. But carefully. No locations. No identifying details. Just enough to make people think. To make them question whether these beings exist. To make them consider that some mysteries are better left unsolved. We hiked to a ridge overlooking wilderness. Miles of unbroken forest. The kind of landscape that still exists in the Pacific Northwest. The kind of place where Bigfoot families could still survive if left alone. They're out there somewhere, Ben said. Maybe not here, but somewhere. Sarah nodded. Living their lives, raising their young, trying to stay hidden, just like they've done for thousands of years. And we're some of the few humans who know they're real, Mike said, who've seen proof, who understand what we're sharing the planet with. So, what do we do with that knowledge? I asked. Sarah thought for a long moment. We protect it. We share it carefully enough that people think, but not so explicitly that we endanger them. We make people wonder, make them look at forests differently, make them consider that maybe, just maybe, there are beings in the wilderness that deserve to stay mysterious. And we keep watching, Ben said, keep advocating for wilderness protection, keep fighting against habitat destruction. Not because we're trying to prove Bigfoot exist, but because we know they exist, and they need these places to survive. We stood there watching the sun set over endless trees. 4 people who'd seen the impossible, who'd been terrified by it, who'd learned from it, who'd spent 12 years carrying the secret, and who'd finally figured out what to do with it. Protect the mystery while sharing the lesson. 3 weeks ago, I got an email. Anonymous sender. Single line of text. Granite Basin. One more time. You'll understand why. No signature, but I knew it was Graves. I contacted Sarah, Ben, and Mike. Showed them the message. Is this safe? Ben asked. Probably not, I admitted. But when has that stopped us? We drove to California. hiked back into the high Sierra, followed our old GPS tracks toward Granite Basin. The approach felt different. The forest wasn't silent this time. Birds sang, squirrels chattered, normal wildlife sounds, and no wood knocks, no thrown rocks, no sense of being watched. We reached the box canyon. The brush barrier was still there, but overgrown, abandoned. We pushed through, entered the nursery site. It was empty. The structures were still there, weathered, falling apart, but recognizable. The beds, the toys, evidence of what had been, but no signs of recent occupation, no fresh bedding, no new arrangements of stones. This place had been abandoned. They moved, Sarah said, examining the site. Years ago, based on the deterioration. This hasn't been used since probably 2013 or 2014. On one of the structures, we found something new. A marker, metal plate attached to a wooden post. Official looking, but small. Easy to miss unless you were looking for it. The engraving read, Protected Site 14B, Federal Wildlife Sanctuary, established 2013. Entry prohibited. Graves did it, Mike said. He got this place officially protected. After they relocated the family, he made sure no one else could stumble onto it. But there was more. A small box at the base of the post, weatherproof, sealed. Inside, photographs. Our photographs. The ones that had been confiscated 12 years ago. Copies, at least. And a note in Graves's handwriting. The family you encountered was relocated to protected wilderness in British Columbia in 2013. They're safe, thriving. The young from 2012 are now adults. You did the right thing staying silent. This is your proof that silence protects. These photos are yours now. Use them wisely or not at all. RG. We stood in that abandoned nursery, holding photos of a family that no longer lived there. Proof of what we'd witnessed. Validation after 12 years of having to keep it secret. What do we do with these? Sarah asked. I looked at my friends. We'd been through something impossible together, had kept faith with each other for 12 years, had honored the agreement we'd made even when it cost us credibility and opportunity. We tell the story, I said, carefully, without locations, without enough detail to endanger them, but we tell it. Because Graves is right. Silence protected them, and now that they're safe, maybe sharing the lesson helps protect others like them. We took the photos, hiked out of the basin, made our way back to civilization. At the truck, we paused, looked back toward the mountains. Goodbye, Sarah said quietly. Not to us, to the family we'd never see again. The beings who'd taught us that intelligence exists in forms we don't expect. That fear is sometimes wisdom. That protecting mysteries is more important than solving them. We drove away, carrying our proof, carrying our story, carrying the responsibility of knowing what most people will never believe. This is that story, shared 12 years after it happened, 6 months after Graves gave us permission, 3 weeks after we confirmed the family was safe in their new home. I'm not sharing locations, not giving enough detail for anyone to find them, not encouraging others to go looking for Bigfoot nurseries, because the point isn't proving they exist. The point is understanding that they deserve to exist without constant human interference. The Bigfoot family we encountered in 2012 is still out there, still raising young, still living in territories they've occupied for generations, and they deserve to stay hidden, deserve to remain mysteries, deserve the respect of being left alone. This story isn't an invitation to go searching. It's a reminder that some beings are better protected through secrecy than through discovery. I'm 34 years old, work in environmental policy now, focus on wilderness protection and habitat preservation. Sarah's a biology professor, teaches wildlife ecology, never mentions Bigfoot in her classes but structures her curriculum around respecting non-human intelligence. Ben runs wilderness survival courses, teaches people how to move through forests without leaving traces, how to be guests in spaces that aren't ours. Mike designs sustainable infrastructure, focuses on minimizing human impact on wild spaces. All 4 of us built careers shaped by 5 days in 2012. All of us work toward protecting the kinds of places where Bigfoot families can survive. None of us explicitly acknowledge why, but we know, and that knowledge drives everything we do. Here's what that Bigfoot family taught us. First, intelligence exists in forms we don't recognize. The creatures we encountered had no technology, no written language, no artifacts that would convince skeptics. But they had coordinated defense strategies, communication systems, teaching behavior, and ethical frameworks that prevented them from killing threats when restraint was possible. That sophisticated intelligence may be more sophisticated than ours because it doesn't require validation through external proof. Second, fear is respect wearing survival instinct. We were terrified in that basin, but our fear kept us alive. It made us cautious, made us avoid escalation, made us listen when we were being given directions to leave. Fear isn't weakness. It's accurate threat assessment combined with appropriate response. The Bigfoot family understood that. They used our fear to guide our behavior without resorting to violence. Third, some territories rightfully belong to other beings. Granite Basin wasn't ours to explore. It was theirs. They'd established their nursery there, raised generations there, built a life there long before we decided it would make a good backpacking destination. We were the intruders. They were the rightful inhabitants. And respecting that distinction is crucial to ethical engagement with wild spaces. Fourth, documentation can be violence. Our photos, if released publicly, would have destroyed that family. Would have brought researchers, hunters, tourists, filmmakers, all of whom would have disrupted the sanctuary they'd built. Sometimes the most ethical choice is to witness without recording, to know without proving, to experience without extracting evidence. Fifth, silence can be protection. Graves understood what took me years to accept. Keeping Bigfoot existence secret isn't a cover-up. It's conservation. Public acknowledgement would mean destruction. Scientific recognition would mean the end of their ability to live peacefully. Secrecy gives them the gift of continued privacy, and maintaining that secrecy, even at personal cost, is the right thing to do. And finally, responsibility outlasts experience. 5 days in 2012 created obligations we'll carry the rest of our lives. To protect those who trusted us, even unwillingly. To advocate for wild spaces where they can survive. To tell this story carefully enough that people think, but not so explicitly that we endanger anyone. That's what witnessing the impossible requires, lifelong responsibility for what you've seen. The Bigfoot family we encountered wasn't mystical, wasn't supernatural. They were physical beings with biological needs, social structures, territorial instincts, and parental protectiveness. They were people, not human people, but people nonetheless. Beings with culture, communication, family bonds, and ethical frameworks. They deserve recognition as persons, not as cryptids or mysteries or folklore, as actual persons with rights to privacy, territory, and self-determination. And maybe, the reason they've stayed hidden for centuries is because they're smart enough to know that human recognition means human interference. That being discovered means losing control of their own existence. They've chosen obscurity as survival strategy, and we should respect that choice. The photographs graves returned to us show a family, not monsters, not missing links. A family, adults protecting young, creating safe spaces for offspring to develop, using intelligence and coordination to defend their territory, making ethical choices about when to use force and when to show restraint. They let us live when they could have killed us, guided us to safety when they could have let us get lost, showed mercy to intruders who didn't deserve it. That's the gift they gave us, not just the lesson about their existence, but the example of how intelligent beings should treat threats with measured response, proportional force, and mercy when possible. We've tried to carry that gift forward in our careers, in our choices, in how we advocate for wilderness protection, and now in this story, shared carefully, protected thoughtfully, offered as a reminder that mysteries sometimes deserve to stay mysterious. If you take anything from this story, take this. Not every mystery needs solving. Not every being needs discovering. Some things are better protected through secrecy than through science. I'm sharing this story 12 years after it happened because the circumstances have changed. The family is relocated. The program protecting them has ended. The legal threats have expired, but I'm sharing it carefully. No locations, no maps, no instructions for how to find them. Because the point isn't giving you directions to go see Bigfoot. The point is making you think about what we share this planet with. What deserves protection? What mysteries are better left alone? Respect territorial boundaries. If you're in wilderness and you notice signs, absolute silence, thrown rocks, wood knocks, structures that seem deliberate, leave immediately. Don't investigate. Don't try to document. Just leave. You're being told you're not welcome. Listen to that message. Advocate for wilderness protection. These beings need space. Vast, uninterrupted wilderness where they can live without constant human encroachment. Support legislation protecting old-growth forests, roadless areas, habitat corridors. Not because you're trying to protect Bigfoot, because you understand that wild spaces matter for countless beings who live there. Question what deserves proof. Not everything rare needs to be photographed, documented, and shared online. Sometimes witnessing is enough. Sometimes keeping the secret is the ethical choice. Before you photograph something unusual, ask, will sharing this harm what I'm documenting? Trust people who warn you. Jack Thornton tried to warn us. We laughed. We were wrong. When locals tell you a place is dangerous, when old-timers say an area is best avoided, when indigenous people mark certain territories as sacred and off-limits. Listen, that knowledge exists for reasons. Respect it. I'm 34 years old. I encountered a Bigfoot family when I was 22. They terrorized me, taught me, and ultimately let me live. And I've spent 12 years trying to honor what they showed me, that intelligence exists beyond human forms, that family bonds transcend species, that protecting the vulnerable matters more than proving the impossible. Subscribe if you believe mysteries deserve protection, if you believe some beings have the right to remain unknown, if you understand that respecting boundaries, even when crossing them would be exciting, is what ethical wilderness engagement means. Comment where you're watching from. Tell me if you've ever been somewhere you shouldn't have been, if you've ever had to choose between proof and protection, if you understand why some stories take 12 years to tell, and if you're planning a wilderness trip, if you're looking at unmapped areas and thinking about adventure. Remember what we learned. Some territories belong to others. Some experiences should humble us rather than validate us. Some encounters should make us smaller, not bigger. The Bigfoot family we met in 2012 didn't need us to prove they exist. They needed us to leave them alone. We finally understand that. Thank you for terrorizing us. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for letting us live. And thank you for staying hidden, staying safe, staying free. You deserve the mystery. You deserve the privacy. You deserve to raise your young without human interference. We'll keep protecting that, however we can, for as long as we can.